Hello and welcome to this audio section and this audio lecture. So in the previous video we installed the server 2019 and we just basically set up the VirtualBox instance so that we can move files across into the instance, and we left it there. Now this video is supposed to show you how we are supposed to configure some basic setups on server 2019, but we would skip that and we'll leave that for a proper lesson which is planned for the course on managing Windows Server 2019. So this video we are actually looking at quickly setting up the lab environment, and one final component that we need to set up is to just basically quickly install a Windows 10 workstation, which we'll be using for our lab environment. So without much further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. So we're going to create another instance. At the moment, we have the server 2019 powered down. It's off. So no resources are really being used at the moment. So we'd go to create a new instance. And in this situation, we're going to set up the Windows 10 workstation. So Windows 10. So we're creating a new virtual machine. And we'll use the ISO path. And then we will go to downloadables. And actually Windows 11, that's what we planned to use. So point of correction, Windows 11. So Windows 11 operating system, I will click open, and then it has picked it up, Windows 11 home, Microsoft Windows. We'll skip unattended installation, so we have to configure it manually. Click next. This one I'll give it just 4 gig of RAM, and I would give it 4 cores as well, so that it runs smoothly. And I'll untick this and we'll click next. We wouldn't give it 80 gigabytes, but Windows 10 normally would run if you give it 50 gigabytes. But if Windows 11 seems to be an upgraded operating system that requires more space, then probably that's the way to go. But just as an experiment, we would give it just the normal 50 gigabyte compared to the server. We wouldn't really be using it for a lot of things. We just use it to join a domain and see how it is, push a couple of updates to it and see how it works. So we'll give it 50 gigabyte. If it crashes, we'll troubleshoot it and we'll resolve the problem. Click next, click finished, and then it's set up. So we just need to run it now. Select the Windows, start, and then it boots up the VM. Okay, so that's booted up, just like we'd seen it. It's identical to any Windows operating system, the same interface. And just like how you image a machine, we're going to go through the setup once again. Click next, install now. We don't have a product key, and we would go for Windows 11 Pro. Now, this is a time to just basically double check what your knowledge is on operating systems. So you're a system administrator and you want to demonstrate your human skill set, your skill set that you know about computers, you know your way around the road. Now, when you're in an IT environment that has a managed environment, for instance, we have a domain and we have a network of computers. Computers are supposed to be added to a network so that they can be managed centrally. You'd have to join computers to domains, which we will be exploring in this video. But then, it's not all operating systems that have the capability of being joined to a domain. So Windows 11 or Windows 10, Windows operating system, the home operating system editions don't have the functionality to be able to join them to the domains. It's only the Windows Pro versions. So for instance, Windows 10 Pro or Windows 11 Pro, they're the ones that can join a domain. So a trick interview question could be asked. I have a Windows 11 home operating system and I want to join it to the domain. how do I do that? It's a trick question. The interviewer is just trying to see how smart are you? Do you really know what you're talking about? And if you go on about and give the guide, okay, you go to the computer management and then you join a domain there or whatever, then you're lying through your teeth. You're not going to get the job. You need to point out right there that actually Windows 11 or Windows 10 Home that you just called out there can't be joined to a domain. It has to be Pro. That's how you ace the interview questions like that. So we'll go with Windows 11 Pro. Go to next. And it says this PC can't run Windows 11. The PC doesn't meet the minimum requirements for running the Windows. So basically, our instance can't run Windows 11 because it doesn't meet some requirements. So we need to fix the requirement. I think I'm familiar with something like this, which we have been experiencing in our own IT department when we try to image Windows 11 machines on old devices. So devices that normally don't meet the requirements. So I think we chose 8 gig RAM and I think we had some decent storage. So what I'll do is probably we just need to start over again. Let's just double check to see what requirements do we need. Windows 11 requirements, something like that. Okay, 4 gig. Okay, so we can give it 4 gig, at least 64 gigabyte. So I'm just going to start over and we would go according to this. And I know Windows 11 normally needs a TPM check and secure boot. So at work, normally we have a manual way of bypassing stuff like that. So maybe we just need to do that to the virtual machine as well. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to come out of this and we would come out of this as well. Click yes, and then power down this machine. Then we'll go back to the virtual box. Just remove this. Delete all files, start over. So we'll go to new. And I'll choose the instance again. Windows 11, open. And we call it Windows 11. Workstation. And ISO is chosen. And we'll manually configure what we want. So 4 gig RAM. And probably we'll give it 4 cores. We'll untick this. And we'll keep it as it is because at some point we need to be able to run the server and the Windows 11 machine together, and that would take so much resources of the host machine because there's only a 16 gig RAM capacity. So if I allocate so much RAM for both, there wouldn't be enough left for the machine to run. So maybe I'll just leave this at 4 gigabyte because actually this already said you only need this, so that should be enough. So I'll leave it 4 cores, 4 gig RAM, and click next. Storage as well. I think the minimum is what we need because we wouldn't really be using the machine for anything. We just want to see if we deploy certain things to it from Active Directory or how does it work, things like that, right? So I would keep it as 64 gigabyte. Now we'll click next, click finish, and it has TPM, but normally we'll bypassing that. So we're just going to start that machine again, and now we need to manually do some configurations so that we can bypass the system checks that's getting the installation to fail. So before we start, just like any other installation, we can do some bypasses here. So what I want to do is we want to bring up the command prompt and go to input. I normally like using the input soft keyboard and use shift F10, and then we are going to the reg edit. I hit return, and I think over here we normally go to local machine, go to system, and go to setup. And what we want to do is we want to create a new folder here. Actually, 1 second. you know what? Just click new and new key. Then we'll call it maybe app config. And then within this, we will go to new dword32 value. And what we want to do is we want to create some values here. So say bypass TPM check. TPM. And normally it needs to be basically the same spelling, like capital B, capital T, capital P, capital M, capital C. We'll hit return, and then we just basically need to modify this and give it the value 1. It's all about zeros and ones. That's how the PC operating system reads data, binary. So click OK. And we need to add a new string again, and this one we're bypassing secure boot. And we'll give it value of 1 as well. 1, 5, give it 1. So the requirements I normally checks before it boots up the Windows 11 to run properly, and these two things are the ones that normally fail them. This is how we normally do it in our office, in any IT environment. If you look up YouTube with this failures as well, that's a basic fix that's out there online, and so you should be able to know something like this. And it's a good thing that we ran into that problem. So I'm just gonna, so that's all saved, and we'll just close this. Then we would go next, and it shouldn't fail now. So let's see how that goes. I don't have a product key, and we would go back to Windows 11 Pro, click next, and then it should check. Okay, so now it checked and it didn't give us a failure. So obviously I never read these. Click accept, click next. And just like, you know, as well, if you had an instance already and you wanted to upgrade it, this is where you'd have the option to upgrade. But we'll go to custom, and we have the 64GB. So assuming we didn't have 64GB, and we could have just maybe probably used a regedit key to bypass this as well, but I wouldn't recommend bypassing it, because for some reason Windows 11 actually needs this space for it to be able to run. So like ideally you don't want to cheat it, so you keep it, click next, and then we'll just basically wait for it to install, just like the server. So that's done now, and I'll just manually click the restart to reboot the Windows 11 machine, and it should be decent enough. And while that's running, let's just see how many resources that is normally exhaust while that's running. So I'm just going to go to the task manager, and it looks like not much, not quite much. When we're running the server, it normally took like about 90% of the memory. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so starting services basically is going to give the same installation procedure, but not like the server. The first point of installation configuration was to just set up an administrator password. But compared to ordinary workstations like Windows 11 and Windows 10, you normally ask, you know, basically the language, which we've already done, and you need to give it a PC or a workstation name and set up a password. Ideally it's the same, but that account would be like a local admin account or a local account, and just some basic configurations I would set up now. So just going to speed this up a bit. So that's our Windows 11 booted up, and we're being asked to set it up. So normally what I would do here, so choose our country, and normally I go for Ireland because I'm in Ireland. I will choose this keyboard, and I will skip this. It's checking for updates. How does it know that you have a network installed or a network connection? How does it check for updates? Anyway, so with modern operating systems like Windows 11 and even some versions of Windows 10, normally when you're setting it up, when you're imaging them from the beginning, you would be asked to connect to the internet. And when you do that, you'll be asked to use a Microsoft account to continue with the setup of the operating system, which binds your operating system to an account. And normally you don't want that. The old ways of doing things is to basically have a local account on the PC. So what we would need to do is we need to have a way of bypassing that connecting to the Wi-Fi or connecting to the internet phase. In the past, you normally have a button there that says I don't have internet, and then you can click on it and it will take you to the next phase. Then you have the option to set it up locally. But now they have taken that away, and just like we cheated our way for that, we can have a way to also cheat away for that. But it looks like because we've already done that cheat, it's actually getting us to bypass a lot of things. So it's not actually asking us to connect to the internet. We'll just go ahead and name our workstation. We'll call this, say, staff PC. Staff PC. That's the name of the PC. So that means it's a staff's PC. So click next. You're likely to be going through a series of reboots, which is okay. And the next phase should be basically about probably setting up a password or accepting terms and conditions, and if you want to send reporting and analytics data to Microsoft, stuff like that. How would you like to set up this device? We would go with, this is the option where you're supposed to have the option to set up a local. But if you go with setup for work or school, it's going to ask you to sign in. If you go to personal use, it's also probably going to get you to sign in. If you click this and you click next, that's right, it's asking you to sign in, which we don't want. We don't want to bind the account, the operating system to an account. We want to create a local admin account. Set up for personal use. It's also going to ask you to sign up with a Microsoft account. Unlock your experience, sign in. So we need to find a way to bypass that. And to do that, what I'll do is we'll go back. And we want to go back to our keyboard. I can manually just use my keyboard to do this, but I want to demonstrate what I'm typing or what we're using. So I just use the Shift F10 again. And this time around, we want to put in OOBE bypass NRO. Hit return. Actually, I have that wrong. Show it this. It's bypass, 2 S's. Yeah. So that should restart the machine, and it should get us to bypass the whole need to sign in with an account. So let's hope that works, and we'll give it a few seconds. I don't need the keyboard now. We're back to the startup screen, and we're being asked to start over. So just choose Ireland. Yeah. Irish. Yeah. Skip. Still checking for updates. Interesting. Microsoft has a way of always trying to pin down any new creative ways we have to bypass more of their stuff. Just going to go to staff PC as a PC name and 01, and then we'll click next. It would reboot again. Just a moment. Back in the day, installing this is just basically a next, and you're done. But now you have to jump through a whole lot of hoops just to get a basic install set configure, like a operating system setup. To be honest, I haven't done this in ages at the time of recording this course, and because of my experience and my technical ability, I'm able to go through this. Oh, that didn't work. So being asked to actually set up, we have been actually, so there's no way we can bypass this. Anyway, so I'll use a personal account, and we would remove it. So I have to continue with the training to show you how to convert it to a local account then. So I'll use a personal Microsoft account that I have. Next, I have a password. That is signing me in. Probably there would be another way to bypass this, and probably just need to find the right command. And the bypass NRO was for a network, so normally you can say it gives, if you do that, it normally gives you the option to say, okay, I don't have internet or I can't connect to the Wi-Fi. So I think maybe the new fix would be when you go into the command line, you need to put in a command prompt that would disable the NIC. So I would, so that's basically me. I'm decided to proceed with going with an account, and I can remove the account from the instance. So choose how you would like to set up your PC. Restore from no. Set up as a new PC. Click next. Need to create a pin. Pin is set. Just forwarding a pin. If you don't have a Microsoft account, you can create one and use that. So I'm just going to go for no for all of these. No. Required only. No. Accept. No. Accept. No. Accept. Let's customize your experience. And I'm just going to skip all of this. Skip this as well. And no, don't back up. This is a whole basic new machine. Not now. Next. Jesus, all these are new interfaces. You're in luck. You've landed a free trial. No, I'm going to decline this. Decline this. Jeez. This is really interesting. Microsoft have done a great deal of work to get all this inside the OOBE experience when you're setting up a new workstation. Skip this. So much for the services. Finally, we're on the high page, the famous high page. Anyway, so those are the hoops you jump through just to set up a Windows 11 workstation. Initially, I intended to do Windows 11, but I thought I hadn't downloaded the Windows 10 ISO. It was Windows 11, so we just go with it. So the point we are trying to make here as sysadmin, you need to be familiar with things like this. If you're a system administrator and you don't know how to image a machine, then that's not where you belong. This is something very basic that you need to be familiar with. And if you can demonstrate this from a practical point of view to an interviewer, how do you image a machine through using a bootable device? Obviously, I'm using an ISO just to demonstrate how the installation process is. But what initiates the installation process? Normally, you need to have either, if you're in a managed IT environment, you probably have a server that has the configs, and probably you need to do a pixie boot. So that means you're booting a new machine and you're going to install Windows from a network server. So you use a pixie boot. Or you need to create a bootable USB stick and use that USB stick in the right booting order. You boot the Windows from it, and then you can do the installation from that. So those are some of the things that, from a sysadmin point of view, obviously minor tasks like this is something that level 1 support will be able to do. But you need to demonstrate this level of technical competence. If the level 1 support is trying to install Windows 11 like this and they're having problems, you should have the technical knowledge to know how to go through these hoops. Like, for instance, when I was getting those requirements errors, I had to go through the regedit and create those D32 word keys. Anyway, so this is our Windows 11. You can see it's binded to my account, and when I go to settings and I go to accounts, you see that it is an administrator account, but it's binded to a cloud account, which we don't want. So when I go to Access Worker School, so we don't have any organization set up here, so we need to, this is one of the things that we'll be exploring. You know, when we join the machine to the domain and stuff like that, at the moment, it's just a workstation and it's not joined to any domain. We want to make sure that the PC has a proper name. So these are some of the basic checks. And when you go to host name, yep, that's the name we gave it. And when you see its status, whether it's joined to a domain or not, so you go to Windows Run, it says dm.cpl, click OK. Like I mentioned, this is not for beginners. This is for people who already have some experience. So most of the things are advanced. So like, for instance, how I got here. So you can see it's in a work group and we haven't joined it to the domain. So to rename this computer or to join a domain, use these. Anyway, so we are doing some basic checks and we just need to convert this to a local account. And so what we would do is we would go to create that local account first. And we'll go to local user manager. And then we would create a new user and we'll call it local admin. And we'll give it a simple password. Password never expires. So it's called local admin. That's the username. We'll create, close. So when we go to users, we now have the account that was created and we have this local admin. You can use this or you can enable the built-in administrator account. That's how you can go about it. So, but let's to make things easier, let's just go with a local admin account. So we'll would enable this local admin account. We would untick this to get enabled. Password never expires. And then we would set this password as well. So at least we have 2 local accounts. And so password. So the account is enabled. The password has been set. So at least I know I have 2 accounts. I call this local admin, but I haven't necessarily included it in the administrators group yet. We have this and we have that. Since I would be removing this, I would be converting this. I just need to make sure that we have the proper administrator accounts enabled. Okay. So we are going to go back to this, and then we will go to, I'll make this bigger. We go to system, and normally you should have that. Hang on a sec, to accounts, and then we go to sign in options. This is hidden. It normally has, it's normally in, let's see, info. Yeah, Microsoft accounts. So we don't want this. We want to sign in with the local account instead. Are you sure you want to switch? Yep. And we need to make sure it's me. I think we just use a pin. I need to use my Windows account and my cloud account. See, this is why we need to, if you forget this password, you're locked in. So this is why we need to make sure that we get rid of cloud-based kind of bind and keep everything local, which we can easily manage. So you see Microsoft account / this is my cloud account. And, you know, yeah. Enter the username and password for your new or existing local account. So we'll go for the existing local account. We'll go for administrator. And then click next. Windows is already using that name. Let's enter a different name. So go for the local admin. Okay, doesn't like that. Just keep it as local then. Give a hint, click next, sign up and finish. Windows is already using that name. Close. It's really strange. Okay, we'll try this again. We just go with the new name then. Same hint. Sign up and finish. Yeah, so now we are signed out. And we have multiple accounts that we can sign in. So we have administrator, we have local admin. So it actually just needed a name to overwrite the previously existing account that was binded to the cloud account, which the new name that I gave it but this account, or you need to get rid of it, basically. So I'll go to the main administrator account because that's the only one that's in the administrator group, and I'll sign in as that. And then we can delete that user account that we don't need, which is a CGB. So that's how you get rid of Windows cloud account that has been binded to your operating system at startup. I might upload, or I might edit, or I might add a new video to this lab environment when I discover what's the command to use to disable the functionality that requires you to add a cloud account. Before, you could have just done it by just disabling by able to say you don't have internet, but they've improved it. So that's one thing that you might know. It might not come in an interview, but it's handy to know as a sysadmin. So I'm going to go to sysdm.cpl. That's a quick shortcut to get to this page whenever you need. And so I want to go to advanced. I want to go to user profiles, and I want to delete this account because I don't need it. And just give it a few seconds. So that's deleted now. And then I'll click OK. OK. And then we'll just double check to see if it's still there. So local user manager.msc. OK. Go to users. And we have it there as well. So I'm just going to delete this. Delete. Yeah, we don't need it. Okay. So that's it. With this account that we have, so this is the administrator account that I'll be using. I would rename this account as not local admin because we already have a proper admin. I'll just call it local user and apply. Okay. And that should be enough. So a way to double change this local admin. Anyway. Probably delete this then. And create a whole new user account. It's grand we never sign into it. Local user. Password never expires, just in case we ever need to use this account. Okay, so I hope you've learned a thing or two on how to go about creating at least user accounts in Windows operating systems. So we have created the final piece of setting up the lab. So our lab basically entails, I'm just going to double check if there's any patches that needs to be installed on this operating system. So we go to Windows Update, and no updates available. Check for updates. Maybe you need some patches. So this is basically what we need for our lab. So we have the server, we have the Windows 11. So we managed to have the Windows 11 workstation running on minimum requirements, 4 GB of RAM, 4 cores, and the server 2016 is running on 4 cores as well, but 8 GB RAM. So if we have to run these two together, because we need them to be working with each other, to talk to each other, if we want to join this domain, when we get to that practicals, and we should be able to run both. So if this is on 8 GB and this is on 4 GB, that's 12, and the balance out of 16, and that's 4. That should be enough for my own PC to run them. But we'll see how it goes. And so basically, this is what we have set up. Installing these are optional, but if you want to follow along properly to have the practical experience, to be able to answer technical interview questions, you can see some of the problems that we run into, then I recommend you go with it. Now, next up, we need to now start managing the server. We need to start adding services. There are some configurations that we should have done in the installation video for the server, but we haven't done that. We kept it for the main content, for the main course material. So this concludes the whole setting up of the environment optional bit. So the next section, we will start exploring a server configuration by adding the very first service, which is Active Directory. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.